Hi everybody, this is Live Topic, and today we're going to be talking about something near and dear to my heart since I was a young boy, and that is sumo wrestling. Sumo wrestling is the world's oldest organized sport, and it's got a long history, and I'm going to get a little bit into that today. So without further ado, let's begin. So first, before we get into the actual sumo wrestling itself, let's take a look over here at the shrine where this sumo wrestling ring is in Setagaya. So this is the shrine. Now, it's a Shinto shrine, and it was built in the year, I believe, 1090 something, 1091, in the Heian period by Samurai Lord Yoshie. Now, the thing about it is that Yoshie was here for a few days stuck, and he decided that, you know, since he's here and he's a Samurai Lord, why not spread the influence of his god, which is the Hachiman. And the Hachiman itself is actually the Japanese version of the god of war. So, you know, obviously he wants Hachiman to be the protector of this area. He wants to spread his influence, and that's how this shrine came to be. And during that time, he decided to make a sumo wrestling ring and have sumo wrestler bouts to call upon the gods into this area. And that's how we came here. And this is the Dohyo sumo wrestling ring here in Setagaya. This ring itself, as we're walking towards it now, was used as one of the three major sumo wrestling events in Japan at the time, from Heian period all the way up until like they started moving sumo wrestling indoors. But back in the old days, sumo wrestling was completely outdoors in rings like this, and all the rings are made out of clay and sand. Now, I'm not going to walk on to the actual ring because while it's not in use anymore, it's considered a sacred place, and before you go into this ring, you should, as a sumo wrestler does, purify your body with water, and also you should have salt to purify the ring to make it more sacred. But it's still considered sacred even without that, but of course I want to maintain my respect for this area and not, you know, basically just put my feet all over it. But this would have been the ring that sumo wrestlers in the old days would have used. It's really just quite gorgeous. And look, that's the old school arena style. Obviously, there wasn't thousands of people here, but probably enough significant people. Now, sumo has been around for 2,000 years, and it started, I believe, around the year 720. But sitting here right now, this is 1,000 years old. Now, maybe this itself isn't 1,000 years old, but this area has been used for sumo for 1,000 years. And it really is kind of surreal to be sitting in an ancient place where sumo, basically, still even then, sumo was quite old at 1,000 years, but 1,000 years ago was such a long time ago. It's still crazy to think about how long it's been around and how it's still even maintained to this day. And to give you some more information about the sumo itself, is that during this whole thing is actually a religious ceremony. Like I mentioned earlier, you purify yourself with the water, you throw the salt all around. But there would actually be, like in modern day, to this day, they have a Shinto shrine that is held above the ring, and it resides over the ring itself. And the purpose of this is because this is a religious Shinto ceremony. It's not just a sport where some fat guys come and hit each other. Now, mind you, in the old days, sumo wrestling was kind of like the early days of the UFC. It was basically anything would go. There wasn't any particular rules or even fighting styles that were set. And that didn't really happen until the Kamakura era, where they started making rules and fighting styles to make it more about pushing and all that stuff. But before, you could do just about anything. Now, outside of that, come here, they sit and they stomp on the ground to squash the bad spirits, and then they do their clapping and their dance area, because what they're doing is they're summoning the gods to come and aid them in their fight. And this whole thing is really just a fight about destroying the bad spirits, and for whatever purpose, usually there's like a reason behind the bout. So like there would be for a nice strong harvest, or maybe it would be because they were trying to a subtle dispute about power in Japan. And in reality, even to this day, you can see a lot of those overtones when you're looking at sumo wrestling events. Now, unfortunately for today, sumo is in its decline. It's not as popular anymore, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but One of the main being there hasn't really been a real good Japanese champion since the 1960s. A lot of the champions or ozeki are mostly foreigners nowadays, believe it or not, and they're really people kind of view the Japanese sumo wrestlers almost as not tough enough or kind of weak, and they're being dominated by foreigners in the sport. And that's not something that really bodes well in Japan. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting to see that like it's becoming dominated by the foreigners, and considering there's so many religious overtones within sumo wrestling. I mean, to be honest, like as a kid watching with my grandma, I was quite bored sometimes. Like I meant to be playing Pokemon or something like that, but like knowing the history behind it nowadays makes it even more interesting to me, and the fact that this tradition has stayed alive, and like how Japan is so good at maintaining that tradition, it's just amazing. Without further ado, I'm gonna just go ahead and pay my respects to the shrine, you know, maybe give some tithing over to them to help them maintain this place. I'll show you some examples of a sumo wrestling match that I went to just the other month, and some perspective to what I'm talking about if you haven't ever seen an actual match before. So, until then, see you there. And I'm watching sumo. Something that I used to do quite often when I was young, actually, with my grandma back in America. We used to watch sumo in the middle of the night. So it's actually kind of, it's an odd dream, but it's kind of like a dream come true, because it's very nostalgic being here and just seeing the lighting and seeing all the sumo wrestlers and being in person. I remember watching this for, it seemed like hours as a kid with my grandma. I remember it would be just completely dark in the night and then just the TV on all day watching sumo. And yeah, it's just kind of bringing back those vibes and memories, and hopefully I'm back in America right now, my grandma's watching with me as well. So my goal right now is to show you some fights that I found interesting throughout the tournament that lasted like 5 or 6 hours. Now this is like a very standard, traditional looking push-push sumo wrestling fight right here, but there actually is no weight classes in sumo wrestling, so you can be completely different weight and it wouldn't matter, be big versus tiny, it doesn't matter like in this case, and you really get to see like the grit and the skill of some of the sumo wrestlers. Can you imagine how much that guy just lifted with his one leg right there? Granted, he used his body, but that is a lot of weight to be tossing over. What I really liked about this particular fight is obviously they're very energetic, but you really can see like the power that they have going forward and still maintaining a balance at the same time. It might look like they're just pushing, but there is a lot of intricate skill going on here. So I saw about 3 or 4 different foreigners participating in this tournament, and while I just wanted to give you an example from earlier about how they're showing their dominance in the sport. This is a good example that not all the foreign sumo wrestlers are just outperforming Japanese sumo wrestlers with brute strength, but also with skill as well. And what he's about to receive right now is actually the money for winning his match from the referee, who also looks like a Shinto priest, which is pretty cool. Look how massive that guy is compared to that helper on the side there. It's just insane. But like any sport and any fight, and any time, anybody can win. And not always is it the foreigner. So what we're actually witnessing right now is the end of the tournament, where the East and the West sumo wrestlers that are being represented are being shown about where they come from, and I think a little bit about their personality, because if you're looking here at their robes, they have very distinct patterns and they're all different and unique in their own way.
I even saw one guy who had a Hello Kitty one, his completely pink robe with Hello Kitty big face on it. So yeah, it's pretty interesting, but now they're paying their respects and they're about to move out for the day.
Okay everybody, so that concludes my time here at the sumo ring in Setagaya and also at the matches. So, you know, my last thing to say is just, if you can, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and support the sumo if you can. If you come to Japan, I suggest you guys get tickets. I might put some links in the description below on how to get tickets if you're interested. It's just got great tradition and history behind it, so let's just keep that alive. But, you know, until then, let's go on more adventures, and I'll see you next time.